So you have a tender rate and your love overlanding. You have plans to do it big on the trace and some super glamping. One idea, deep news and reviews, a podcast the first rate and here just for you. You don't have to think about it, join us and be about it. Something interesting we want to hear about it, come on let's talk about it. Welcome to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints Podcast.
Sponsored by Midland, communication for every adventure. The industry leader in radio communication technology and innovation for over 50 years. Sponsored by MyMedic. Sponsored by Tembo Tusk. Sponsored by Shower Pouch. Sponsored by BrewTrek. Sponsored by Hard Impact Designs.
Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
I got a couple things to make an announcement here because I know we have a lot of listeners that are on the East Coast and there's a lot of people that are maybe in the Midwest. So I just wanted to throw out, I wrote this down here. You know me, I don't write anything down, but I wrote them down. There's 3 events happening coming up in the Overland world. The first, which we have a bunch of friends at, Phil, by the way. Our first one is September 13th through the 15th, which I believe is this coming weekend, is Overland of America is happening in Oklahoma. And that is their debut year for this event. It looks, from taking a look at their website and the venue and everything, it looks like it could be a pretty darn good event. It looks like they're almost, I don't want to say they're competing with Overland Expo because it looked like there was a lot less classes, kind of say, but there are definitely some featured speakers like Patty Upton and Misty from Lady Overlander and various people like that we know from our Overland Expo event. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out because if you are in the Oklahoma area or in the Midwest somewhere, that event going on 13th to the 15th.
Well, I never mentioned it to you, Mike, but we got invited to that a long time ago. Actually, no, I think I did mention it to you. We got invited to that like while they were still putting it together. I'm very curious as to how that turns out. You mentioned Overland Expo, and that's why I'm curious because I know there are a lot of former Overland Expo people over at that venue, and there are a lot of content creators and vendors who are normal regulars at Overland Expo that will be at this event. So I'm very curious about it.
Yeah, agreed. And it looks like a nice venue. It looks like they're kind of marketing towards a little bit of a family orientation because I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's on some water. It's got cabins. It's got different kinds of camping. You can even have plugins, I think, for camping. So it's a little bit maybe more, how would I word this? Maybe less roughing it potentially if you wanted to go to something like this than say, Overland Expo.
Well, it's funny. That's a perspective thing because some people that's a positive and to some people that's a negative. Some people coming to an event or two is really the only time they really, really get out and get to camp. And they do want to use everything. They do want it a little rough. And then you have the flip side, people who do it all the time or just don't have that kind of attitude. They want all the conveniences. I agree with both of them. There's times where I want to glamp and there's times that I want to be primitive.
That's right. And I just realized, our buddy Will, Sir William is going to this event. So maybe we can get him on the podcast and give us a, he's never one to mince words. So he'll probably give us a good review of the event.
Yeah, we definitely got to do that. So
there's two other events I want to mention. One is a Land Rover event in Massachusetts. The reason I'm shouting this one out because I've been to it a bunch of times. It's called the Metal Dash Weekend. Started out mostly old Land Rovers, very similar to the one like I have. That is on September 27th to the 29th. So for those of you that are in New England, that event is going on. It's usually a good time. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and you get to it's a real kind of basic camping and off-roading event. And then I don't know if we mentioned this. I don't think we did on the last podcast. Overland Expo East is coming up October 4th through 6th in Virginia. And I don't think I've announced this anywhere. I mean, there's some people that know, but I'm going to be there. I did put that out on my Patreon for my Patreon supporters and let them know. But I will be at Overland Expo East. However, I will not be there with the big orange truck. I'm going to be in attendance with my Africa Land Rover, my 1965 series truck that I took across Africa. That's going to be on display in the creator showcase area. So be sure to come by and say hi. I know I won't be quite as easy to find without a big orange billboard behind me, but I'm going to try my best. And looking forward to that. That's unexpected, by the way, because as some of you guys know, I was supposed to be in Mexico already. I've had some setbacks on my truck. Not anything major that's not being taken care of, but I had to rearrange my schedule. So it afforded me the ability to go east, visit mom and, see family and go get the Land Rover and bring that out west, actually. But in doing so, I'm able to go through Overland Expo East and bring the truck there. So that's going to be exciting. It's, by the way, it'll be the first time I've ever done all 4 expos in 1 year. I've never done that before.
See, me and you are moving backwards. I used to do all 4 every year. Now this year I didn't do all 4.
I know. So anyways, those are my 3 big events in the Overland world that are coming up.
So one thing shout you out real quick, Mike. He's not telling you much about the vehicle that he's taken there. And I've had the opportunity to see his vehicle. And this is like a Concours Elegante vehicle that he's got. And he is really understating this vehicle. Mike, talk a little bit more about the vehicle, what kind of vehicle it is, the year, and not just that, also where it has actually been.
So it's actually an interesting story. It's a 1965 truck that I bought, believe it or not. I bought it 30 years ago. I've owned that truck for just about 30 years now. I'm the second owner, and it came from Idaho on a potato farm. And when I got the truck, it was absolutely mint, meaning like it was all original. It had the, safari roof and the 4 jump seats in the back. And with the, it was a classic sort of Discovery Channel Land Rover. Well, I'm not the guy that probably should own something like that. And so I had it for a few years. And then, and by the way, I bought that truck because I had spent a year over in Africa. And that's when I learned about Land Rovers. This is how I got into overlanding originally. And when I came back, I searched out a Land Rover. I got to get me one of those things when I go back to the States. I had never really heard of one. So that truck ended up doing in 2001, we did a vintage Rovers across Africa trip, which we took 4 1960s and early 70s Land Rovers. We shipped them to Europe, actually. So they did some Europe and then went into Africa, and we went across the Sahara and down the west coast of Africa. And that's kind of what that truck is famous for. And to be honest with you, it's sort of what kind of originally put me on the map as being in the overland community was this truck. Everybody always thinks it's like these big orange things or even the Jeeps that they've seen me with in the past. Mm-hmm. But really it was the Land Rovers originally. So this truck has been, by the way, it was completely almost destroyed in Africa. It was beat up so bad that I think it took me 6 years. I think it was off the road doing a restoration on it. And, so it really hasn't done a whole lot in the last, dozen years or so. So it's kind of its reunion. It's coming out. And I'm not gonna announce all sorts of things yet, but I've got some plans for that truck besides just going to Expo. So we'll stay tuned.
Yep, I won't bust you out, Mike, but I think that's bigger news than the news you gave, actually.
Yeah, maybe. So we'll see.
Mhm.
I wanted to mention one other thing I got on my notes here, because you and I like to talk about national parks a lot. I saw an interesting, I don't know if you saw this article, Carlsbad Cavern, which is here in New Mexico, put out an interesting article, which I thought we found pretty interesting. It was called, I think it was called a bag of Cheetos. And somebody had inevitably, it's an interesting story because it's like, you don't realize what your impact can potentially be on both of the environment or national parks or whatever. And if you've ever been to Carlsbad, it's this big cavern, it's underground, and somebody dropped a bag of Cheetos or whatever. And they basically told the whole story about how one bag of Cheetos could change the entire history of that cavern because it introduces animals, particularly bugs or mold or whatever that does not exist inside the cavern, which breaks down the natural formations and whatnot inside the cavern. So I found that to be kind of an interesting story. I know you and I like to talk about national parks here on the podcast a lot.
Well, the most interesting part to me was reading the article. They spoke about how detailed and intricate it was to remove one little bag of chips.
Yes,
I mean,
right.
if anybody's watched like CSI or something like that, that's got nothing on all the steps that they took to remove one bag.
I didn't realize that the rule there is that you're only allowed to bring water in, nothing other than water. No food, no beverages that are not water. So it was kind of interesting. So anyways, I wanted to make sure we started the podcast at least talking about overlanding, because I know the last couple of podcasts we've gone off the rails. So anyways, and I also failed to mention that, another thing I made some notes about things to talk about was, sadly yesterday, Darth Vader passed away. We call him James Earl Jones, which it's funny because I remember him more as this is CNN, the voice, right? But it was also the voice of Darth Vader.
I remember him from the movie Claudine.
Yeah.
He played a janitor, and his other big movie for me was I think it was called The Great White Hope. He played a boxer.
Yeah. I think he was only one of the few guys that has, I could be mistaken, don't quote me on any of this, that he won like the Emmy, the Oscar, and the something else. Like he's won like all sorts of awards. Fascinating career.
Yes.
It's amazing what you can get just from a voice. He should have been a podcaster.
I'm curious as to how much income he got over a lifetime just narrating things.
Exactly. Yeah, because he did the Disney stuff, right?
So the Lion King, he was
the Lion King. Yeah.
Yep.
But
my favorite, I just want to mention my favorite movie by him of all time. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called A Piece of the Action. It's a movie starring Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier. If I have the name wrong, just Google Sidney Poitier, Bill Cosby, and his name, and the movie will pop up.
Yep.
But it's an excellent movie with a moral to it, and you actually have talented people who are funny and can act.
Yeah. So, anyway, sad news in that. What else do we got to talk about? I think that's it. We should probably just wrap it up, right? So tonight, it's a big night.
Let's be clear. It's Tuesday that we're recording this.
That's right. We told everybody last week, we usually record on Tuesday. So what are we going to do different this week, Phil?
Well, we're recording two podcasts. One before the debate, the presidential debate this evening, and we will be doing one tomorrow after the presidential debate. So today we are going to give our predictions on what we think will happen, how things will go, what we think each of the opponents needs to do. I'm not going to call them candidates.
Yeah.
And
That's good thinking.
And then tomorrow we'll come back and see if we were right about anything. Probably not. See if we're right about anything and analyze what actually happened.
All right.
So I've never done anything like this before.
No.
I'm actually excited about it.
I'm kind of excited too, because it's always an interesting proposition when we're gonna say what we think, and we could be totally wrong. And you're gonna be able to watch it and listen to it on the podcast back to back. So we can't hide.
So before we give predictions or opinions, let's set the table for this, okay? So first, this is an ABC Disney network that it's going to be on, which is a liberal-leaning company, and it's proud to be woke. Would you agree on that?
Yeah. However, the guy that is the two moderators, and maybe you can explain better than I. The one guy, what is his name? David Muir, I think.
Yeah, David Muir. I
like him, and what I mean by I like his voice. I like he comes across from an anchor standpoint to me as very professional sounding.
So does professional for his job mean non-biased?
No, not necessarily. However, admittedly, I don't watch ABC as a network. I probably haven't watched ABC in 50 years. So the only reason I see him is clips, right? So I'll see clips, whether I'm flipping through Facebook or TikTok or something. And, I see the clips of his top story or whatever. And that's how I know kind of what he looks like, what he sounds like. And he always comes across as very professional. And let me put that in perspective, in contrast. So let me contrast what I mean by that is some other anchors that we probably all know that I would describe not as professional. So who would I take? Let's take Fox News, Tucker Carlson. Or he's not on Fox News anymore. They fired him. But he's kind of off the cuff. Like he doesn't come across as the stiff professional guy. Or take, what's her name on MSNBC? That she's not on there anymore either. She's only on there on Monday. I mean, she's as unprofessional as it gets. I mean, she's just 100% biased, period, end of story, right?
So I'm sure you're familiar with the Media Research Center.
Yep.
This is supposed to be a non-biased, non-political research center. And they look at the media coverage on different people, and they tell you how much of it was positive and how much of it was negative. And both sides use this information. So this is supposed to be pretty unbiased. Now, David Muir, Media Research Center, rated his coverage of the candidates as follows. Harris, 100% positive.
Okay.
Trump, 93% negative.
Interesting.
So,
what about the other one? Did you have any? I don't know. I'm not familiar with her.
With who?
There's two hosts of this thing, correct?
So there's David Muir, and then there's George Stephanopoulos, who obviously is biased.
Oh, he's on there. I didn't know he was on there.
Yeah, he was a lead member of the Clinton 92.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he worked for the administration when they went in.
Yes, he's definitely biased for sure.
And then
I thought there was a female involved in this.
There is Martha Roberts. The only reason I know her and know her name is because how she openly cried on air when Trump won in 2016. She's that person that they always go to. You've probably seen that footage a million times where she's like crying. So
you're painting the picture here, Phil, that we're watching a debate on an extremely biased network.
I am merely saying that these are the people and these are their records.
Okay.
A last thing, the New York Times, seeing a poll September 3rd through 6th, they polled 1,695 likely voters with an error percentage of 2.8 points. Voters said they need to learn more about Harris, 28%. People who said they need to learn more about Trump, 9%. That's extremely significant. So if this research is actually accurate, more than a quarter of the population that's going to actually vote really don't know nothing about her, and they feel like they need to know more. And it's less than 10% that don't need to know more about Trump, which makes sense.
Yeah.
He's been in office. You've experienced him. So that makes sense. People are used to Trump, his statements, his flip-flops, his rudeness, all that stuff. So
right. Yep. As we know what we're getting with him.
So before we pick who we think is going to win, Mike, I think we should discuss you pick whichever you want. What do you think Harris or Trump needs to do to win the debate?
Well, so this is my view on this a little bit. I think that Trump is in the driver's seat a little bit, based on the fact that, for one, like you said, he is a past president. He has been involved, I believe, in more debates than any other candidate in history. So he has a track record of doing debates. And we could argue that you could argue he's won most of them because, you don't end up becoming the president and becoming the nominee for your party unless you won some of the debates. I don't think. And he tortured the Republican candidates in the primary both times,
sure
and easily won. You'd argue he easily won all the debates. So I think the ball is in his court. For him to win, I think that what's going to happen. I mean, here's my prediction: a little bit of what's going to happen. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I think the debate style is going to likely gravitate towards Trump, meaning that I think he's going to control the debate style more than she is. And maybe some of that's going to be on purpose. I'm not suggesting that she hasn't thought about this. And maybe I think it's more likely that she's going to morph to his style. There's two options. She can become more of a Trump style debater, or she can go back to what I would call traditional debate strategy, which we haven't seen in years. I don't know when the last time we saw a true debate where they actually talked about issues, because that hasn't really happened. So from when I say Trump has won debates, I'm not sure he won debates. Trump has won the knockdown, drag out, name calling style of whatever he's invented.
Well, I think that in reality, this is the first time that Harris has been on the big stage. She's never debated for being the president. She's tried to be the presidential nominee and got knocked out in her first debate.
Yep.
So she's never really been on the big stage. So I think that even people who support her, the eyes are going to be more on her because she's the new entity here. She's the new thing. So she can't make gaffes. She can't make mistakes. And like you were mentioning the format, everybody's saying that it works for Trump. I actually think it works for her better. And it's because she can't ad lib. She's not good with the back and forth, especially not with a guy like Trump, who's
Right.
not going to concede her femininity as part of the argument.
No.
So it's better for her it's your turn to answer the question. She doesn't have to worry about no interruptions. And I know how these things go. They train you to start in the first 10 seconds talking about or repeating the question, and then go right to this script that you've been practicing for 2 weeks. And then the whole rest of what they're saying is what they already practiced. She can do that.
Yes. And, you know, to put her in perspective, she was a prosecutor, right? So she should be able to put together an argument, right? So, you know, when they ask her a question, she should be able to respond. The problem with her is, and I don't know if this is going to come out in the debate or not, but she's not good at ad-libbing. You know, so they got no notes. They can't go in with notes. They can't, you know, there's no dialogue. So she can't feed off, to contrary to what you just said, she can't feed off what Trump said necessarily. So she's got to kind of ad lib it. And, you know, her weakness is if she falls into word salad territory where she just starts going around in a circle and making no sense. The problem is that if she gets into a circle of going around in no sense, she's going to get attacked for that. We're pretty sure that Trump's going to get into a circle and go around and make no sense. But let's be honest, you know, we already know that that's what he does. And I feel like he doesn't get discredited for that nearly as much as she's going to.
I don't argue that. I also think that Trump could knock Harris out if he focuses on the issues. I know that's hard for him, but if he literally focuses on the issues, it causes one of two things. It'll show disparity in knowledge of the issues. It'll show disparity in actually having fundamental ideas about an issue. It'll expose her flip-flops and her hypocrisy.
Yeah, if he sticks to that, which is a big if when it comes to Trump. I will say the two things going in his favor in that is that he did a fairly good job of that when he debated Biden, because Biden basically spontaneously combusted on his own, and Trump, for the first time ever, kind of stayed mild, and he dropped his, you know, I think the end of Biden's candidacy was when Trump rebutted him and said, I don't even think he knows what he just said. And it was one of Trump's funny lines. It was a soundbite. He didn't pound it into the guy like he was trying to kill him. He just understatedly said it. And that one sentence, I think, was the end of Biden. And if Trump could do that with her, what's that?
No, I said it was all things at once. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I said if Trump can do that same thing with Harris, he could blow her out of the water. Let's put this in perspective, Phil. In my opinion, this debate is happening in Philadelphia. It's in Pennsylvania, and they're really speaking, from what it looks like to me in the polls, they're speaking to Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania only. Because if you look at the battleground states right now, of which there's only maybe 5 or 6 of them, the reality is that neither one becomes the president without Pennsylvania. It almost comes down to a one-state scenario. Whoever wins Pennsylvania, in my opinion, is likely to win the president of the United States. So, and Pennsylvania, and I was talking about this with somebody else the other day, is an interesting state because it doesn't really play into either one of those two candidates very well. Meaning that it tends to be, Pennsylvania is kind of a blue collar state. It's kind of, you would think it would skew more Democratic, but the Democrats have kind of gone out and self-sabotaged themselves in Pennsylvania a bit because, you know, the anti-mining and coal and fracking and oil and all this other stuff doesn't play well into Pennsylvania. So it's hard to say. You know, it's a toss-up, and the polling, I think, shows that it's a toss-up.
Well, again, I think Trump should stick to the issues. And you mentioned polls. A July Harvard Caps Harris poll found that a majority of voters support all the key elements of the GOP platform, and 54% approve of the job Trump did as a president, including majorities of every age and a dozen demographics. So what they're saying is basically across the board, no matter how educated, how much money, what race they are, people are of the genuine opinion that he did well as a president.
So I think if he sticks to 3 issues, if he brings up the economy, the border, and foreign affairs, he beats her on all of those things. Because right, wrong, or indifferent, she's tied to the Biden administration where the border's been a disaster. Whether it's connected to the administration or not, the world is a disaster. I mean, the war in Ukraine, the war in Israel and Gaza, the Afghanistan withdrawal, those are all international things. None of those look good. And the economy, you can look at numbers every way from that you want to, really. But I think when it comes down to it, how do you feel? Like, that's a feel good thing more than anything. It's not so much the price of eggs or what the mortgage rate is or what the unemployment rate is. It's really how does people feel? And I can tell you from traveling around, the gut feeling right now is it ain't that good.
I agree, bro.
So can he stick to those? Because then Harris has to be. So what happens is if he sticks to those issues, she's on the defensive.
She has to discuss the future. He can discuss the future or the past or the present, but she's
got to discuss the future. Yeah,
only the future. So it limits her range of topics and how deeply she can go into those topics because she has a track record. She has the most recent track record, which gets me to, if I were talking to him, I would tell him, be very respectful. Not only be respectful, but every time address her as Madam President. So it can really hit home. She's in office right now. All of this shit she talking, it could be getting done. It should be done. It shouldn't have happened.
Okay, but I'd like to say something, Phil. You're an intelligent guy. And I would agree with you that he should stay away from name calling and he should stay away from picking on her because she's a woman or because she's, Indian or whatever, all this other nonsense is not related to it. And you're right. He should come across as super respectful. But the problem is we're talking about Trump. I don't care how many of his advisors probably are saying the same thing you just said. I can't imagine that they're not saying that.
If he goes off the deep end, I want him to do it strategically. Like, if he's going to talk about her sexuality or her race, then make it count. Act confused and say, in order for me to cover certain topics, you guys have brought up race. So in order for me to talk intelligently about them, could you please tell us what you identify as?
Yeah. And the problem is he doesn't come across as super smooth with that. And the reality
I don't care if he does it ugly. Make her answer the question.
Yeah. The problem is though, that plays to his base. And those people are already voting for him. The people that are in question are the ones in the middle, particularly in Pennsylvania, like I just said, that are trying to make a decision as to, do I vote for Trump or do I vote for Harris? And those people are going to be more concerned, I think, about the issues and whether what she identifies as is not an issue. I mean, it just isn't.
So if they want to pull people from the Democratic Party, it absolutely does. It's an identity. That's all what they're about is social issues and identity. So if you are at the top of the ticket for Democrats and you are using it to get people to vote for you, and if you are exposed to be not what you are, or flip-flopping on what you are, that is an issue for people who are maybe actually really considering voting for you.
So that's attacking her core people. Let me just try to understand what you're saying. What you're kind of saying is, if he does attack that stuff and she does not do well with the answer, then that is going to affect the voter turnout. Really, what you're saying from the Democratic side.
Yes.
So that's one issue. So I agree with you on that. The problem is so would you go after, if you were Trump, would you go after trying to eliminate voters of hers, or would you try to pick up voters like what I'm talking about in Pennsylvania that are somewhere in the middle? They identify as independents. They're not Democrats or Republicans. Those people, I think, is what you saw in that poll, where 9% don't know about Trump, but 27% or whatever don't know about Harris. Because let's be honest, she really hasn't been very clear on her position.
She, to this date, don't really have no positions.
And that's
actually the position she does have positions. She was the vice president. So whatever Biden's positions were, those are her positions.
Do you think she's going to use this debate to move away from Biden, or try to?
She's been trying to move away from him this whole time. So yes, I do think that.
So
she's in a situation where if she protects him, then she's saying, yeah, all of this messed up last 3 years that we've been going through, I agree with it.
Yeah, my fault.
If she walks away from him, she weakens the Democratic platform. She's basically saying, I represent something that's failed.
Well, and that's one of the things I've noticed in the last couple of weeks. I mean, if you ask me, I don't know how they're even going to debate. I mean, we talked about it at the top of the podcast, where you've got Republicans that are endorsing the Democratic candidate. You've got Democrats endorsing the Republican candidate. You've got President or former President Trump saying that, he's in support of marijuana or legalizing it in Florida. You've got her saying that, okay, fracking is okay. You've got it almost sounds like the two of them are going to be running together. They've been. Bernie Sanders came out yesterday or the day before and basically said she's going to say anything to win. I mean, I can't even believe Bernie said that, but he basically said, look, she's going to take the position as whatever's going to win. So now we got to go, does she mean it, or is she just trying to get elected?
And then we have to actually look at these people who are endorsing people. Let's take the top two, Cheney and JFK. What's happening is they have no position in that party if Trump becomes the president. So Cheney is against that. His daughter is still in the beginnings of her career.
Yeah.
And then with JFK, he had no place in the Democratic Party when he stepped down. So why wouldn't he go for Trump? And they're talking about he's going to have a position on the cabinet. So their opinions and endorsements aren't solely how they feel and nothing like that. It's to prolong their careers and do what's best for themselves.
Okay, so the big question then that I guess we have to answer is, who do we think is going to win the debate?
I'm going first.
Well, I mean, Let's think about it. So what I want to hear is who's going to win the debate, why we think they're going to win the debate, and did they win the debate or did the other person lose the debate?
Okay, so I think Harris is going to lose the debate. And the reason is she's just not a talented person all around. She's not knowledgeable about a lot of things. And she's been given this, people are considering her a great debater because of being a prosecutor, where it's a whole different dynamic prosecuting a person that's sitting there. They have to follow the rules. There are people not allowing him to say things or to say more than he wants to say. She's able to push that she's a female and that you have to treat her a certain way back. Those things don't work in a debate. She didn't do well in the only debate she's ever had. She immediately was out on her first debate. She's not a great debater. Whenever there's countless clips where she's talking and she's almost like Joe Biden. She'll be talking and midway switch to another subject. So here's my prediction, bro.
Okay.
Trump is going to win because he's better than her all around. He's going to have the crowd whipped up. He's going to intimidate.
Oh, there's no crowd. There's no crowd.
Oh boy.
No crowd.
Well, that might make it still worse for her. There's nothing new under the sun that he's going to be dealing with. Everything is new for her. And I just don't think she can stand up to it. The only advantage she has is that there's no interruptions, there's no hot mics. So if she can remember the words that they told her to say, she can say her little 2-minute speeches, every time they ask her a question. But I think any intelligent person will read right through that. They'll be like, oh, that was a practice statement. And here's the other thing that I gave you all that information in the beginning. Do you remember last presidential debate, last presidential season, when the CNN was in charge of the debates? Well, what did they do? They gave the questions to the Democrat. Why do we not think that this ain't going to happen for this one? And this is considered a way more liberal, way more woke station. So I want to give what my logical opinion is. I think Trump is going to win, but he's playing at somebody else's casino.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. So the format is that there's no audience. There's no hot mic.
That's for her.
I don't know. I think there's a rebuttal. I think they're going to allow them to rebut what the other person said. I'm assuming that's going to be set up. I guess we're all going to learn that together tonight. I'm not clear on that.
That all works for her.
Yeah. Yep. So my prediction, I do believe that it's going to be a fairly close debate.
I don't.
I also agree with you that I think Trump's going to win. I think that he is. I think what's going to happen is what I said earlier. I think the debate is largely going to take the format of whatever Trump wants it to be. I'm going to go on a bold prediction here. This is my boldest prediction I'm going to make yet. So it's going to make me look like an idiot tomorrow if I'm wrong. I think Trump is actually going to be reserved. And I think he's going to try to follow as closely as his advisors have told him to follow a policy script and lay into actual policy issues. And I think if he does that, I think he wins because she's the incumbent. You can look at it that way. I mean, the policy is she's had the last 4 years to do something. So I think Trump's going to win the debate. And I do think that, you're in order to verify that he wins, you're really going to have to search it out tonight after the debate, because as you very appropriately said, there's networks that are in her pocket. So, I mean, there's going to be a strong motivation from
CNN gonna say
media.
She won.
That's
and
right.
Fox gonna say Trump says she won.
That's right. That's right. So you're going to really, really have to dig into it and look at some independent things. But I think where Trump is going to win is if let's say you're going to take the top 5 sound bites of the debate. I'm going to tell you if Trump has 4 of them. I think Trump's going to get 4 out of the top 5 sound bites from this event because he is a master at one-liners.
You ain't leave me nothing. So my prediction is identical to yours. The only thing that you gave me left was that final little bit. I think he's going to behave basically, but I think still he's Trump. So he's going to have 3 or 4 sound bites, as you call them. I was going to call them dams that he's going to do where his people working for him, when he says it, they're going to be like, damn.
That's right. Damn. No, don't do that. And then everybody else will be like, yeah.
And I think for the objective viewer, those 3 or 4 sound bites are going to be 3 or 4 little small little nothings, maybe not even 5 seconds long, each one of them. But you're going to see those 3 or 4 sound bites more than you see anything else. So that's why it's hard for me to predict. I think he's going to actually win the debate. But what is actually winning the debate? If his words were stronger than hers, that doesn't necessarily mean he won. Because if they take all of the things that make him sound negative and they keep showing those for the next 3 days in the news and they say he lost, and most people are followers, then she won. I believe that the media can sway people.
Oh, for sure. I mean, unless you're dealing with what we saw with Trump and Biden, where it was a total train wreck, generally speaking, the people that are already supporting Harris are going to say she won, and people that are already supporting Trump are going to say he won. I mean, unless there's some radically, disaster that occurs. In the case of where it was Biden, it was so bad that like even people that were Biden supporters were like, oh God,
They've set the bar so low for her that all she's got to do is basically breathe, not sound like an idiot.
Yep. That's hard for her.
And they're going to be, she's so presidential. I promise you that's the word you're going to hear on every liberal station. Well, she's proven how presidential. Well, her presidentiality, it's going to be presidential. Yeah. If she can do that.
Yeah. And that's the key. So if she can, the only way that she pulls out a win is if she is very clear, in my opinion, sticks to issues, is very clear, does not enter into any kind of word salad. Well, that's hard.
She's a word salad person. She's like a words. I mean, you could literally be talking to her about anything, and it just she's that type of person.
If she laughs, but once, she loses. That's what I'm telling you. If she laughs a single time, she loses. Okay. She's got the worst laugh of any human being on planet Earth, and it's not no way.
I kind of agree. If she laughs at the wrong time.
I think if she laughs at all,
that's her problem.
It's just like, but she could pull if she really, 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 like you said, is forward facing and sticks to policy. But I would have thought that would have happened already. And you got to remember, her team has not allowed her to speak to anybody. She's done one interview with her vice president, recorded on a softball network.
That was crazy.
And she's never had a press conference. She hasn't done anything. If there's no more clear indicator that she cannot speak, then write me a letter, guys, or send us a DM. But she's not proven that she can speak, unless they're just trying to keep this a secret from us, and she's going to come out and blow everybody away at this debate, which I don't see.
So, Mike, I'm doing this live. I'm going to Amazon.com. That's where I get my groceries from.
Yep.
And I am typing in eggs.
Phil's typing in eggs. He's going to see the price of eggs. I don't know, but that's that's where we're going to do. So tomorrow we're going to follow up this podcast with what actually happened and see if Phil and I are right in our predictions. And don't forget that we are going to make our prediction about
$7.29.
And I know this because I make a lot of ice cream and I use 6 eggs in each batch of ice cream. So I can do 2 batches on a dozen eggs, and they're expensive.
And you know how I know that the economy is really messed up, Mike? Whenever I'm traveling and I go into a convenience store, I used to almost every time I get gas, I go into the convenience store and I grab something, right? And I don't even look at prices. I just grab stuff and I go up there and I just throw it up there now. And then I just hand them a 20 or I'd stick my card in or whatever, get my change back. Man, if I grab a bunch of stuff and put it on the table now, it'd be like $45.
Yep. I was about to say 4 years ago when I first went on the road, you go in there and I do the same thing. I don't look, you grab a couple Slim Jims and a Gatorade or whatever, and you hand them a 20 and you'd get change. Now, 20 is not the bill of choice any longer. You can't get out of there for that. You're inevitably pulling out a 50 or your credit card because the 20 is not going to cut it. And that's a good gauge of the economy. Is a convenience store. You're right. If I go get a one of those coffees, Black Rifle coffees, in the cans, I love those things. It's like $5.60 or something like that for one can.
Bro, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So the point that I'm making is, if he at every chance connects whatever they're talking to the economy, how it is now and how it was and how it can be, he should shake up some people's minds and get some votes from it.
See, and I think that's why it matters in Pennsylvania. So I started at the top of the podcast saying that I think this debate is largely for Pennsylvania, because I think that those people in Pennsylvania that are the swing state that's going to really matter. If I had to take a guess, I'm going to say that the economy is probably their largest issue. Remember, they're not a border state like Arizona is, so they're probably dealing with the border thing a little bit less. And foreign policy, although important, I think the price of eggs is probably the most important thing to them. And I think that that's probably where both Harris and Trump should stick to and argue their points about how they're going to make these people have a better life and not spend $40 at the 7-Eleven when they go in, and I think that's what it comes down to, because I think that's what people care about.
So Pennsylvania does not have the most electoral votes in the United States, but it has one of the higher electoral vote counts.
Mm-hmm.
The most is California. They got 54.
Right.
I mean, and in Texas,
they got
40. But look how big those states are.
Right.
But they're like number 1, 2, 3, 4. They're number 5.
That's right.
They have the 5th largest amount of electoral votes.
And that's why I say whoever wins Pennsylvania wins. Because right now it looks like Trump is edging Harris out in Arizona. Harris is edging Trump out in Michigan and Wisconsin. Georgia is pretty much a toss-up. But, you could argue that based on history, and if Trump can ease over the governor there that they were fighting with, he might be able to pull off a victory in Georgia. But I'm not even sure he has to. Pennsylvania is a must-have, though.
I agree. Texas is the 2nd largest with 40 electoral votes, and I think they got that wrapped up. I think they got all 40 of those. California, I think
she's
they will
got
get
all
at
those.
least 2/3. No, they hate her in California. That's why I didn't say. I think she'll get half.
I don't know.
But then I just realized there's a Democratic governor and a Democratic assembly. She'll get all the electoral votes.
Yeah. Yeah. California is a Democratic state. I mean, that's just the way it is. So that's not in play.
I was actually thinking fair.
Most states are not in play. There's really 5 states that are in play. And, even in those 5, I don't know that half of them matter. So, and Trump has pulled out of, it sounds like he's pulled out of Wisconsin and Michigan. He's kind of admitted he's not going to win there. Originally.
Is U.S. Steel out of Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're onto something, bro.
Well, I think the numbers don't lie. I just think that that's the state that has to be in play. And I think if indeed Trump manages to beat her out in Pennsylvania, and that's a big if, the second guessing about she picked the wrong. Well, let me just say something for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
I think that both Harris and Trump made poor vice presidential selections. That's just my opinion. Both of them have done nothing but hurt the candidate. I don't see how either one has helped them at all. And they both arguably have had their fair share of idiotic things. So I think they were both bad choices. And if indeed Harris loses Pennsylvania, it's going to come back to she should have picked the governor of Pennsylvania because he's super popular.
Well, let's talk about that, Mike, because I think we've beat this to a pulp. I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to do it online. I'm going to share something that I generally keep to myself, a thought that I have. Golly, what was you just saying, Mike?
I said the 2 vice presidential candidates were bad choices.
Oh, yeah. So here in America, whether you're an alderman, a city councilman, whatever, all the way up to president, if you get any kind of benefits or special treatment or anything that's connected to you being in that office, we beat you up about it. We kick you out of office. We ruin your life. We cancel you. And it is my belief that that is the downfall of American society.
Agreed.
The most qualified candidates, they do not run for president.
That's right. Clearly.
Because they would never slum it and take that small itty bitty salary and be treated like a peasant. Because you go to other countries, if you are just in charge of the police, people aren't looking at you crazy when you get certain benefits outside of that. France, whatever the guy's title name who runs France, historically, whoever's running France, he's got a mistress and all kinds of things. My point is that I feel like if the person makes it all the way to the president, if he's the qualified person for that office, he is supposed to get some stuff you can't get and be able to do some stuff you can't do.
Yeah.
So it's not appealing to actual powerful people. It's not appealing to people who are actually smart enough to do something in that office.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Oh, I thought I'd get some.
Oh, no, you're totally right. I mean, I think that highlights where we're at as a society in America right now is that our politicians and all of the choices that we're voting for right now are, average isn't even a good word. I mean, average at best. I mean, let's face it. I would wager that most people are voting against the other side and not for their own side. They're voting against something or something they don't like.
I agree.
Instead of picking the best of 2 candidates, they're picking the best they're kind of picking the worst. They're picking the worst of their, but it's better than the worst of the other side. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. I mean, I think I said this before on the podcast. All the candidates that have come up so far in this election cycle have been mind-boggling bad.
Well, I don't believe in the political system, and you're kind of touching on the reason why. And that is because, okay, this country has been around for 200 plus years now. Yet we every 4 years are fighting very basic social issues. We should be beyond, we should have all the social issues covered like 100 plus years ago, and we should be on to other things.
Yep.
Economy shouldn't be one of the subjects. It should be the only subject. We shouldn't be having all of these social issue discussions that we have.
I mean, think about it. Trump just said he's going to support marijuana in Florida. We're having this conversation. This is not a conversation we'll be having. This should have been federally legalized decades ago, and this should not be a platform of being of something that's being discussed in an election cycle in 2024. This is absolutely crazy.
And here's the irony of all of that. If you're not recognizing that they keep you focused on social issues, then think about this. Roe versus Wade, the Supreme Court made a judgment on that back in the 60s.
Yep.
How do we come and how are we back to that again? Now, I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I'm just saying the way I thought it went was once they say it's A or B, it's A or B. There's no coming back and putting it before the court again.
And 50 years later, we're talking about it again.
So I'm not using that issue. I'm using how the issue was treated. So that can be done with other things. And it has been done with other things where there's a law, then they take the law back and then they add the law back. They're playing a game with you. They're literally having you fighting over these little peon subjects instead of having you focused on the main things, because that's where they're robbing you.
Yeah.
That's
agreed. Opinion. I agree, Phil. So we're going to see you guys tomorrow back to back with this, right? We're merging the podcast into one podcast, I think.
I don't know what we're doing, bro.
So you're going to hear us making a prediction, and then 5 minutes later, you're going to be hearing us talk about it and whether or not we were idiots or the brightest guys on planet Earth. Well, Phil, we're checking in here on day 2 of our podcast, the post-debate coverage, let's call it.
So yesterday I wore blue, and I made a point of today wearing red.
That's today. I don't know what I wore yesterday. I'm wearing blue with a flag, though. I got a flag on here.
So this is Wednesday that we are recording after the presidential election.
Right. So for those of you that are trying to understand what's going on, the podcast part that you just listened to was Tuesday recorded before the debate, and now we were doing what's called this. What do we call this? Extra innings, maybe. Extra innings here. We're going to add to the length of the podcast.
I like that.
Okay.
Before we get started, I want to address something from yesterday when we were recording. You asked me about the Tyreek Hill incident, the football player.
Yes.
And I really didn't want to talk about it. And I'm glad that I didn't talk about it because, one, I had not watched any of the video. All I had done is, like a lot of us do, we read some articles, but we just glance headlines of others. And we assume by reading the headlines, we know what happened. So, like I said, I'm glad that I didn't speak on it because I have a very, very different thought process about this and opinion. F. Tyreek Hill. I want to tell you a little story real quickly, Mike.
Sure.
When I was in grammar school, there was a boy, his name was Darvin. people used to call him Little Darvin or Lil Darvin because he was he had a petite frame. And we were in the auditorium. I don't remember what the event was, but we were in the auditorium for some kind of presentation. And one of the biggest guys, and just for detail, this was, I believe, the first or second grade. And there was another boy whose name I don't remember, but he was the biggest boy in our class. And not only in our class, he was physically like maybe a fourth or fifth grader, if you can imagine the difference between a first grader and a fourth or fifth grader. I mean, he was just like huge, but he didn't bother nobody. And during the while we were in the auditorium, the little Darvin kept flicking the back of his earlobe with his finger. You've seen people do that before, flick your earlobe. And he kept telling him to stop. I don't remember anymore how long this event was, but it was at least an hour. And he continually kept doing this through the whole time. Matter of fact, the big boy got in trouble with the teacher at one point because he made some noise and moved around and disturbed. And so he got in trouble right in the middle of this. Near the end, he flicked him he kept telling him to stop, and he flicked him one last time. He turned around because he was sitting behind him. He picked him up and threw him over some of the seating. And then he jumped on top of him, and he just started really, really beating him. This visually, it's not what you're thinking. It was almost like two men fighting. I mean, it was brutal. He beat him up. And Darvin thought we were going to support him, but we didn't. We felt like the other guy was totally wrong for the whooping that he gave Darvin, but he deserved the whooping. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Tyreek is little Darvin on steroids. He's an asshole. I'm this rich football athlete. I'm driving my Lambo. This how many dollars an hour cop is pulling me over, and I'm right outside the thing. He's probably even aware that a lot of these stadiums, the police officers work that detail all the time, and they know that they're supposed to give some kind of levity to the, they're not supposed to just stop people for anything, especially if they're a player. They usually have that kind of directive. And I saw the footage leading up to, I saw where the officer literally sees him coming toward him, and he turns around to follow him. He was driving so fast that the other vehicles looked like they weren't even moving. So it's not like he was, bruh, the way they told this story is like Tyreek Hill is that we need to march on DC, we shall overcome, and all of this. Fuck Tyreek Hill.
Well, it's interesting you came to that conclusion because, in fairness, I think I told you I had seen a bunch of the body cam footage and stuff from the scene, but what I had not seen yesterday was the footage, the prior footage, and the stuff that he had done before. And now it's sort of come out that he was driving. I don't know if it was 100 miles an hour and a 20, but it was fast. And it was weaving in and out of things. I think there was a construction zone and stuff. So there was definitely some reckless driving involved.
Absolutely.
So there was a reason that they pulled him over, and because it originally got painted as a picture that they didn't really have any reason to pull him over, which then if you watch the body cam footage, you're like, well, he roughly cooperated with a lot of the stuff. And it did look like they overdid the drama at the scene, but then when you put it all in perspective, well, maybe not. So,
and guess what? If I were their field officer and I had to judge how they handled it, I would absolutely tell them, oh, you guys were out of pocket. You let your egos get involved. It shouldn't have escalated to this point. So I'm not saying that that they're just like right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if I was a judge, I would be like, dismissed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was definitely, I think the moral of the story here is there were two wrongs. I'm not sure it was handled
but my
great
thing
on either
is,
side.
that's why I brought up the other story. My thing is, you don't get to judge the second wrong.
That's right.
If you're wrong.
That's
true. You
know
know what I mean?
Yes, I absolutely
agree.
If you
slap me, whatever happens after you slap me, you don't get to judge if it's too much or not.
Yep. That's a good point, Phil. Oh, this podcast is getting deep.
So
we're about to go way deeper now.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. So hey, let's just go right in. Let's go right in. Mike, what do you think?
Well, okay. Oh. Let me first thank my our podcast audience that has grown enormously over the past 6 months. So, there's a lot of fans. I know there's a lot of listeners in lots of different walks of life doing different things. We've got, cross-country truck drivers, and we've got overland people, and we've got, just all sorts of different people that listen to us each week as we put these things out. Now,
Mike, just real quickly, extra special shout out to the truck drivers. I mean, it's a lot of them out there listening to us. So respect to the truck drivers. And we're gonna actually try and fine tune some of the things we do just for you guys.
So having said that, a couple things. One, at risk of alienating a lot of people today, which
that's going to happen,
which I might do, because I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, one of the things that you guys can always count on when you tune into Phil and I is that we're going to tell you exactly how we see it without any bullshit or fluff involved. And, and that's our feelings. And if you don't agree with us, that's great. I absolutely respect people not agreeing with me. Send us messages, talk about it. Let's have some real discussion, because that's what we're trying to create here, is real discussion. So the first thing I have to say is I was wrong. And when I'm wrong, I will admit I am wrong, because yesterday, as you probably listened to 15 minutes ago, I predicted that Donald Trump was going to win the debate. And we loosely define winning as, maybe you've got to take people that are going to say he won regardless, and you're going to take people that say Harris won regardless, and blah blah blah. Let's cut through all that. But what I'm going to go on is my feeling of what I saw. So in my opinion, I believe that Harris destroyed him. I don't even think it was close. And I'm going to tell you, largely that was done by using the Donald Trump playbook. She played right into, so the question was, before we went into this debate, was she going to go back to a more traditional debate style, or was she going to play Trump's game? And my answer to that is Harris played Trump's game. She came right out swinging. She antagonized him. He came off as being angry and antagonized, and that's the way I saw it. Now, I've got a lot more to say about this, but I want Phil to put in his thing, because I see his face over here. But before I give Phil his chance to say what he thinks of the whole thing, I'm going to be very clear on the fact that I don't know that means anything. The fact that I see that she beat Trump in this debate, I don't know that it means anything at all. I don't know that it's an indicator of the election whatsoever. I don't know that this necessarily swayed anybody. And I will present my views of why I think that. But let's see what Phil has to say, because he's over there doing all sorts of odd shakes. You're almost looking like Harris was doing last night, where she was moving her head around a lot.
And that was my point. You know, I'm not that demonstrative. That was exactly my point. I keep hearing she was looking presidential. That's not presidential. Let me back up for a second, Mike. Okay, I think she won too. But I need to explain when I say she won. I don't think she won. I don't know if you watch boxing, but there are a lot of times a boxing match is close or there are two conflicting styles and people just watch the fight. And then at the end, they're like, I think he won.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I watch boxing. So I literally am watching who's getting hit the most, who's not getting hit the most, how hard they're hitting. And then I grade it a 9 or 10 round. I literally, even when I go to a fight, I have a piece of paper and I'm literally keeping up with the rounds. And people who are into politics, I think, have that same kind of thing. We watch these and we look at the question that was asked, we look at the answer that was given, and we grade it versus how the other person responded in their rebuttals. But most people just watch and go with what the feeling was of the debate. And I believe that she was coached into being so animated in the debate because there are people who not really listening to the details, or if they are, they don't even know if the details are true or not. So they're looking at her and like, well, he said that, and she looks shocked. I don't believe him. You understand what I'm saying? They just go by what they see. They're not really getting into the details. A second thing, every time he said something, they was doing some kind of fact check thing on him. Some things were actually he said wrong and they were correcting him. But the majority of the time they were not. With Harris, they didn't do that once. And she said a whole bunch of stuff that was not the truth. I'm saying
by my count, to bring that to agree with you on this, by my count, they fact checked Trump 6 times and they fact checked Harris 0 times. 0. Mm-hmm. And you bring up a point here. It was one of my things to mention, but in my opinion, the moderators of this were terrible. And the reason I say that they were terrible is because they're supposed to be moderators. They're supposed to ask the questions. If they had stayed out of it, because the problem is now this has drawn attention to ABC and to them as being biased. And if they had not fact-checked anything, and I agree with you, Phil, there's a couple things they fact-checked that, first of all, there was a couple things they fact-checked that were unnecessary to fact-check at all. It was, and then there were a number of things that Harris said that went unfact-checked. In fact, I made a list. There's a whole mess of things that she said. By the way, for the record, neither one of them answered diddly shit for questions. They didn't, and this is why I say she played to Trump's style of a debate. Neither one of them answered a single question, I don't think. Literally.
She wasn't just copying him. I'm telling you, she was coached. Hers was more scientific. And for instance, I made the point of how demonstrative she is. Well, what that did also was every time they play back a highlight, they've got her there acting. So people who didn't watch, they don't even know that that's just how she acted the whole time.
And that's the thing is, I think what we got out of the debate as a whole is that the moderators asked some questions that they immediately both went and answered whatever they were going to say. Unfortunately, what happened for Trump was she took the lead from the beginning, diverted a question. Okay. No, she diverted a question and then attacked him, got under his skin. And from that moment forward, they both played that same game of they're lying, they're whatever, they're just arguing back and forth. And by the way, there was moments where they didn't turn off the microphones like they said they were gonna. In fact, there were a couple of times where they were talking, you could hear what they were saying even when their microphone wasn't on.
No, they were off. It was just the other person was speaking loud enough.
Maybe
they were definitely out, because I was part of my segment is going to be about audio. I even talked to some audio professionals about particular things about this. They didn't do that.
I thought there was one time that they were both arguing together. Maybe
there was one and they didn't click them over quick enough. But that's the bro. I want to diss them. They but that's one of the things they did get right.
Yeah. So
you were talking about answering questions out the gate. Harris, the very first question they asked her, and when they asked it, I was like, oh, maybe they are going to be kind of fair and everything. They asked her, are Americans better off now than they were 4 years ago? She started talking about her middle-class life, and I mean, she never even came close to bringing it home.
No. I don't know that there was a single question the entire night that was actually answered by either one of them. I mean, that really, if you go back and look at every single question the two of them asked, I don't know that any of them got answered.
You remember yesterday when I was giving you the stats on David Muir? Yeah. Now you see what I'm talking about? Trump said he made a statement in jest and being sarcastic. And David Muir said, I didn't detect the sarcasm.
Yeah, exactly. But so here's the other thing. By the way,
sarcasm police, how do you judge whether he was being sarcastic or not?
I'm glad you bring this up, Phil, because a couple times
that's just not professional.
You're right. It's not professional. But on top of that, I don't know if you've noticed, I don't really understand why they run with this kind of debate format, meaning that they had two moderators on there. Okay. Now, maybe I live in a cave, but I had no idea who this other chick was that was moderating. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure Harris or Trump did either, because I counted Trump, I think, said David's name 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Harris said David's name at least once. I don't think either one of them said her name, because I don't think they knew who the hell she was.
I've seen her on news, but she's not like an anchor or...
No, she's like the B team. She's the weekend World News Tonight anchor / some digital bullshit, whatever.
Something I ain't ever watched.
And nobody else in the entire country has watched either. So she's non-relevant. And my point to the whole thing is, he's the professional. Whether he's biased or not, I don't disagree with you. But he's the professional. He's the face. He's the guy that everybody knows. Why didn't we just have him asking the questions? I mean, I don't even understand why she was there. I mean, that's just an observation, really. I'll tell you why. Because ABC's trying to market her. This is a whole marketing game. They're trying to market their news program and bring in a relatively unknown face, I guess. And
you also have to understand, it's ABC Disney. So they have openly said that there's a push to have women in roles and be seen and things like that. I ain't got no problem with that. But I believe that's what that was. I believe what you said, they are trying to pump her up, but they were like, we can't just have a man. I'm surprised they didn't have like a man, a black woman, and, somebody from the LGBTQ. I thought
that's true.
No, I'm not joking. I thought.
I know. I know. That's the sad part. But let's get back to so my opinion is Trump lost. He lost largely because she got under his skin, because she was very well coached. She didn't do word salad very much, because she basically stuck to a bunch of talking points that had nothing to do. But I think what her coaches told her,
she was insulting him more than anything.
Exactly. Go out on the debate stage. Doesn't matter what they ask. Don't even listen to the question. Just go with what you memorized. And if they ask you about, World War III, start talking about Trump's hair or whatever it is, and get under his skin so that he gets irritated and comes off as, a miserable old guy. But she succeeded at that. She's absolutely succeeded at that. He got so off topic that like there were so many points that he could have brought up.
I agree.
Some of the questions that even David and the other chick asked, Trump could have pounded her on and didn't. He didn't, because he spent half his time defending himself, half the time talking about, I will say the most successful thing out of this entire debate was last night. I swear I didn't get any sleep because I was on TikTok and Twitter and whatnot looking at memes, because my Lord, there were within an hour of that debate last night, there were thousands of memes with dogs and cats escaping Springfield, Ohio. And I mean, some of this stuff was hilarious. Some guy put out a whole Dukes of Hazzard thing with Trump and all of them today. Some of the stuff I saw was hilarious, but I mean, and in fairness, for Trump, I mean, if you want to look presidential, I mean, even if it's true, and I don't, I know David tried to fact check him, but if Asians are eating dogs and cats in Springfield, this is not something I would bring up at a debate. And that's the point at which the debate really went south for him.
Did you fact check that?
I did not fact check it. What I did fact check. Well, hold on. What I fact checked was that because I was like, wait a minute here. I don't even know what they're talking about at this point. And I went on there, and Springfield, Ohio, which I don't even know where it is. I was surprised to find out that 1/3 of their population is Haitian, and that almost all of that immigration has occurred over the last 4 years. It's been really recent. Why they all have migrated to Springfield, Ohio is I was not able to figure that out. I have no idea. But I did see something this morning that looked like it came from a legitimate source, showing some guy in the park pulling geese out of the pond or something. So I don't know. I don't know.
And see, you feel like, just like they made Trump feel like, that you can't really go hard on this. That's why you got your hands up now and everything. I can go hard on it. I've known Haitians all my life. Some of them, it's part of their religion to sacrifice chickens and different animals and things like that. So let's not pretend like it's not part of their culture.
Yeah, I've been to Haiti, so I agree. No, that for sure is true. All I'm saying is I'm not sure, particularly he brought it up when it had nothing to do with the question, of course, I don't think.
But I don't like how the media makes it like we can't talk about this, and we can't. Why are you the news then? Why can't we talk about this how it really is?
Yeah. Yep. So going back to a couple of things that Harris said that were just as ridiculous. She said there are no active U.S. military in a combat zone. That's. I mean, does anybody believe that? We're in so many combat zones in the world right now.
The way she worded it, I do believe that's pretty much accurate. The way she worded it.
Well, how did she word it?
Well,
she said over Biden's administration, that there's no U.S. service people in a combat zone.
Okay, what combat zone were they in?
Oh, God, we're in every combat zone that exists right now. We've got people in Yemen.
So
we've got people in. We've got people. What do you mean?
We have them there, but they're not in the actual combat zone. She was being a wordsmith. Yeah, we're in all those places. We're supporting all of those wars. But the actual military defined combat zones, we are not in. So she's basically lying.
Well, I mean, you could argue that, our mission prior to their administration, when it was the Trump administration and we were in Afghanistan, we were really not in a combat zone situation necessarily there either.
What I'm saying.
it's the same thing. We were supposed to be, quote, peacekeeping or whatever. We weren't supposed to be fighting. We were only engaged if we're shot at. Like, okay, let's just say that.
It's like a janitor saying he's a hygiene technician.
Yep.
She was wordsmithing.
She said that Trump disparaged the military. I've never heard him do that. In fact, I would argue that of any of the presidents I can think of in the last 5 administrations, he's probably the least likely to have done that. We got to remember Obama went on an apology tour around the world and threw half our people under the bus. So, I don't know if I agree with that. She said that police died on January 6th. That was not fact checked. No police died on January 6th.
I thought he died the next day.
No, there was a woman that died. No police died. People got injured. There were definitely first responders that got injured. Nobody died. Not true.
Okay. I watched everybody's perspective on this. I read a bunch of stuff, but the one thing that it seems like neither side has addressed, I guess because both of them look bad on the issue, even though they have opposing views on it, was about abortion.
Yep.
Harris wouldn't answer if she was against abortion at the 7th, 8th, and 9th month of pregnancy.
Did not answer that question. Neither one. Nobody answered any. I'm telling you, write into us. Somebody tell me who answered a question, because I firmly believe, from my count, neither one of them answered any questions whatsoever. Zero. And by the way, here's where we're going to lose a bunch of podcast listeners, Phil. Neither one of these people, based on looking at that debate, are qualified to be the president of the United States. Period. Neither one of them.
I agree.
Embarrassing as hell. Super embarrassing. Like, if you actually have the balls to go out and vote for one of these two guys, I don't know. I don't get it.
But Mike, this doesn't say so much about the candidates. This says more about the constituency.
Yes.
Because
yes.
I have people defend both of them, and the person is completely wrong, and they'll defend them. And I'm like, why are you defending this person?
Well, I got, as I'm sure you did, you get friends on Facebook or one of the social medias, immediately following debate. I had people going, oh my God, Trump won that big, killed it. She's terrible, blah, 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 nonstop, based on no reality. And then the other side, same thing. My feeling is that 99% of the people that are voting against Trump or against Harris.
I agree with that.
That's embarrassing. That is incredibly embarrassing and an incredibly poor outlook on the future of America right now.
So there's a debate tactic that I've noticed that's happened in every presidential debate. And again, like I was saying, it speaks more to the people listening to than what's being said. I remember all the way back when Barack Obama was being asked a debate question against Hillary Clinton about, I don't remember the exact situation, but it was something like, what if the Taliban, blah, 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 or something like that. And he was like, he would talk to them. And then everybody made it like that Hillary made this chess move by replying that there would be all these preconditions that had to be met before you could come talk to me. And so it sounded cool, but if you're the president, it's no different than if you're the head manager of Target. If it's a big situation, you're the man to talk to. And he's the president. If he decides he wants to talk to somebody, he's supposed to have that freedom.
Yeah.
Harris was criticizing Trump for meeting with the Taliban at Camp David, but she was earlier asked about the withdrawal from Afghanistan under her administration. And she was disappointed with anything. I'm sorry, she wasn't disappointed with anything.
Oh no, she thought it was great.
She said she agreed with what they did, and she blamed Trump for the pullout.
Right.
And if you look deeper into this, when Trump replied, he said he met with them and showed the leader an aerial of his house. And he was like, why are you showing me this aerial of my house? And he was like, because if another something happens, you up out of here.
Right.
Next 18 months, nothing bad happened to an American. So that was a good thing that he was like, no red tape, no preconditions, fly in here, let's get this settled. And it was a successful thing. So this goes back to me, a true person who keeps up with politics that's actually really scoring the debate. I feel like he won the debate. But the reality is, it's what do the masses think? And I do believe that the masses think that she won.
Well, let me rephrase what you just said, kind of. I think what you're saying is, I'm not sure you're saying he won the debate. He won the policy and some of his answers to questions that weren't asked were better than what she said to questions that weren't asked.
I'm saying that, and I'm also saying that a lot of the things that she was dissing him about are actual presidential things that he did. I was like, oh, wow. He, because when you look at the story, you're like, wow, he didn't bother with all of that normal political stuff. He handled it. That's a good thing.
Yes, exactly. Another example of that was she didn't answer a question and she made it, I think she lied, but it was very, very obtuse, let's just say, about whether or not she's ever met with Putin, because she went on and on and on about talking about meeting with Zelensky. And the bottom line is, look, if you're going to try to avoid a war, you got to meet with both of them. You got to put them both in a room. So nobody's off the table. And that's why when asked, Trump said, well, look, I'd end the war before I even took office. Well, in my opinion, he's got a better chance of doing that based on his policy thought than she does, because going over to she kept reinstating it a million times over. We're going to go support our friends. We're going to support our allies. We're going to support all this, blah, 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 blah. But that's not how you stop the war.
Well, that just made me think about when they were talking about Putin in Ukraine, and she tried to make Trump look bad for wanting peace.
Right.
And to walk away. Matter of fact, it sounded like it's so much that it almost insinuated that we are behind the war. I can't think of the correct term for it now, but
I mean, in some ways we are. We're backing.
Well, I know we are, but the official presidency has not admitted to it. But she almost basically said that.
Yeah. Well, because I think
a proxy war is the word.
Proxy war. If you read between the lines, she seems to be favoring the only way to end that war is that Ukraine has 100% of their land, 100% sovereignty. Russia loses and backs off and goes away. And that might be the moral high ground, if you will, but that's not reality. That's never happened in history. That's not how we do things. Sometimes you've got to make a deal. Sometimes we might have to give away some land. Maybe we have to. Who knows what the treaty looks like? Look at Israel as an example. That the entire territory is based on a cut up by treaty, right? Mm-hmm. So, she's taking a one-sided approach where I think Trump legitimately is a wheeler and dealer and is trying to take, regardless of whether they're bad on one side or good on the other side. And by the way, in my opinion, you're dealing with bad guys on both sides of that conflict. So I'd rather have his policy.
No argument here, bro. The bottom line, that one of the things that strongly stuck out to me, and I don't think most people picked up on this because I'm not hearing this conversation, but it seems as though if you're defining thing is war. If you're a person that's against war or you're for war, if you're for war, Harris. If you're not for war, Trump.
Yep. Which is
And-
ironic because that's,
and there's
that's
actual, and you don't have to even go by what they said. You don't have to go by what they say they're going to do. He has a record and she has a record.
Yeah.
His, no new wars. Hers, all kind of wars.
Yep. Yeah, and that is probably should be being talked about because that is kind of true. And I think largely some of that is because her Biden administration is soft. So there's no incentive and there's no deterrent. The world lacks a deterrent. We don't have a strong leader. And we have a vacuum going on right now. Trump's only, we talked about yesterday before we went into the debate, it'll come out with some one-liners. Well, Trump had a couple one-liners, and one of them being, Biden being asleep and, questioning whether Biden was even the president right now, which, by the way, is a legitimate question, which, by the way, the moderators didn't address either, because, for months and months and months, we were led to believe by Harris that, Biden is perfectly fit to serve, blah, 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 all this stuff we heard. Well, she hasn't answered to that.
And I loved how Trump closed, and he put it out there. If you really want to close the border, all you have to do is wake up Biden at 4 p.m. tomorrow and have him sign off on it, because
it's true. Sadly, we do everything by executive order.
But the thing is, a lot of the things that she was saying, I'm going to do in the next 4 years, you done had 3.5 years to do it. And you got a few more months where if you really in your heart wanted to get it done, you got a pen.
Yep. And that's why I feel like neither one, to me, from that debate came across as somebody I want to be president. Unfortunately, the temperament involved with both of them wasn't that great. Trump got pissed off. He was clearly agitated. She attacked his narcissism or whatever it is. But on the other side, she's doing this and, she is the last person that I want meeting with a foreign leader.
And I want you to speak on this. I'm going to start. Maybe you'll feel differently. But other cultures, especially world leaders, they are not going to respect her. And it's not simply because she's a woman. That's a lot of people's first thought. It'll definitely weigh in, but her mannerisms, the way she talked, there's nothing about her where she's going to walk in a room and get the respect of those other leaders. That's why a majority of presidents have been over 6 feet tall. It's presence. I'm not saying that that's how things should be, but people go off of presence. And when she walks in the room, the only fear they'll have is of her military. And these guys have egos. They're beyond egos. They are the ultimate narcissists, these leaders. They will not accept any disrespect, public disrespect. They will do things that they may not have done with a man because they can't be seen having this done to them by a woman. Did that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I would take the woman thing out of it totally. Based on the fact.
But it's a fact. It's a fact.
No. It's a fact.
Other cultures.
It's a fact that's got to be overcome, which many leaders have, because we've had female leaders from other countries that have overcome that by being very, very tough. She's not tough. I agree.
And that's what I'm addressing.
Yes, I agree.
She is like traditional American feminist female. And that don't jive with no other culture outside of America.
Yeah. The one thing that Trump beat her on in the debate by leaps and bounds, he has a much better, even when he got rattled, he has a much better poker face than her. She cannot hide emotion at all.
I think they told her to do that, bro. Like I said, because every sound bite when he's talking, she's looking like he's crazy, and that's a lie. And more people will go off of her facial expression than actually listening to what he said, fact checking it, or any of that.
Yep, but
that's why she won.
That's what makes her non-presidential, though. And if she indeed, and if to me, my feeling is I agree, it's part coaching, but I think it's also her personality, because
I agree with that.
I've seen her in other circumstances where she can't hide. She doesn't have a poker face. This is not somebody that like. I mean, I think if she went and met with Putin, as an example, he's going to come bareback riding on a horse and run her right the hell over. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
And even though I'm giving her credit, though, when she shines like this, it's always in a controlled situation.
Mm-hmm.
Mics, no audience, all of the highlights that you're referring to where you've seen her. It's some kind of thing where she's in a prosecutorial position where there's a bailiff, there's a judge. So she can control what you say, how you answer, or whatever. She can't freelance. And that's what I'm talking about. So if she's in a room, because they like to say stuff like the G10 or the G17 meetings and like that. I'm talking about at the real meetings that you don't know about, that the leaders get together and talk. They're going to roll over on her.
Yeah.
She will not be able to, she'll have to have like 15 advisors with her.
Yep. Yeah. And you notice when that debate started, when the two of them came out, which, by the way, let's acknowledge the fact that they handshaked, which I was flabbergasted at, to be honest. I did not expect that. And by the way, now they now have shaken hands twice, because they now shook hands this morning at the 9/11 memorial in New York too. So this is post debate. I'm amazed. But when they first came out and you looked at their expressions and you kind of right when they were settling in the very first minute, and this is why she won. She looked nervous in the beginning, and because she kind of fired at Trump, that's what got her over that. If he hadn't reacted that way, or she hadn't played that playbook, I think Trump would have won. But
I agree.
But because Trump came out way more confident, in my opinion, than she did. And, it just reversed very quickly, because
that's why they want a second debate all of a sudden, because they feel like, oh, we can do this.
Yeah. My prediction is there's the chances of having a second debate are about the same as both of us getting hit by lightning right now while we're on the podcast.
I think both sides are advising for a second debate. They'll both act like they don't want it, or they do want it, or whatever, but I believe they both want it.
Possibly.
They both left stuff on the table.
Oh, yeah. Like all the answers. There was no answers. So we left everything on the table. I mean, to be honest with you, if from a purely non-biased standpoint, if you watch that whole debate like we did, yeah, I think you got to the end and didn't know any more than when you started. We didn't learn anything. Did we?
Not if you've been keeping up with what's going on. No. If I had decided to keep up with politics up until about 18 months ago, and then I just didn't pay attention for 18 months, I still know everything that's going on pretty much.
Yeah. And then
positions haven't changed, nothing.
No. And the one sense I did get was that Trump hasn't changed. I mean, that probably nobody's surprised by that comment. What I'm concerned with is that she's portraying that she's changed, but I think she's lying. When she says that she's going to allow fracking, and that she's, not against handguns or gun control, and she's all these things that she said. I just don't buy it. It was very clear to me that they were both, more her than him, but they were both completely playing to Pennsylvania, as I stated before. She even said it a couple times, like here in Pennsylvania or Pennsylvania. Like that debate was for Pennsylvania.
I believe that. I also think that another reason why Trump would want to get back in there with her is because Harris kept, every time they talked about what's happening right now, she immediately was like, let's move forward and do something different. He needed a catchphrase, or he needed something where he kept hammering back. But you're here now. But you've been here 3.5 years.
See, I would fire all of his debate preppers. I don't know what he did. He didn't seem prepared. If he had come out with the same scripts and dialogues that she did.
I think they were told they were pushing on him, be polite, don't look at her, don't show no facial expressions. And he was so focused on that he couldn't be Trump.
Maybe. I don't know. But like, he didn't come out that he allowed her to let the dialogue go, like, let's move forward, when in reality, moving forward would be to somebody different. They're in office.
Right.
So
that's what I'm saying. They need to come up with some kind of wording where every time she says that point is made. And it's clear.
He did not have his Trump catchy things. He didn't even, by the way, he didn't even name call from a standpoint. He didn't call anybody Sleepy Joe, or like he had no, like he was off his Trump game. Every question
he was advised.
Yeah, maybe. But every single question that was asked of Trump, he somehow answered about talking about the border. It was amazing. Like, well, what do you think about healthcare? Well, there's 100 million people coming across the border. It's like, what?
Anybody that's an hourly worker, anybody who has no more than a high school degree, well, at this point, a high school or associate degree, they are hearing him every time he says the border, because those people's jobs are in jeopardy. They already can't find a job, and then you bring 1 million people over the border. So that was a good point to keep hammering home to the everyday Joe Blow.
He didn't answer the question when they asked why did he shoot down the bill when they were going to do a border reform. He didn't answer that question.
Why do you think he avoided it?
Well, the theory is, I don't know if this is true or not. The theory is that, he wanted to, as she said, make this a campaign issue. So, solving it before the campaign. How can she make it a
campaign issue? She need to not talk about the border.
Well, and that's another thing is like he might have brought up the border at every single waking moment of that debate, but he didn't do a great job of conveying to the audience that she was supposed to be in charge of the damn thing, and it's been a mess. Like, I don't think he did a great job of pinning her to the problem.
Yeah, because he used terms that if you're not watching CNN or Fox every night, like he called her the border czar.
Right.
Most people don't even know what a czar is, let alone she was the border czar.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, she didn't answer that question either, because I asked her about it. And she, diverted to something else too.
That sticks out to me when we were talking to Reyes on the podcast, and we were talking about how you speak simply, and at like a 5th to 8th grade, they both were using a lot of words and terms and different things that were, the average person is just going right over their head.
And I think unfortunately that was in hindsight now was one of the things. I think you just made this pop into my head though, but I don't think that either one of them did a great job of communicating to your average Joe. Like, there was a lot of discussion about a lot of things, but really when it comes down to it, elections are about the average people. And what are you guys going to do to help me buy eggs and gas and, and have health care and all the rest of this stuff. And none of that was really answered. They were really off on a whole mess of tangents, both of them.
So if we're in agreement with that, that means that the majority of what was said was going in one ear and out the other. So if the average Joe is watching the debate and we agree on that, then most of their decisions about the two of them are off of what they see. So I go back to, you're watching Trump, looking down the whole time, and she's looking at him like, you crazy. That's a lie. What? So that animation in her, I think, is probably one of the most powerful things that she did.
Yes, but it also has been memed out. I've seen that on social media already too, where they're using it as this is not presidential with all her weird expressions and laughs and stuff. So it could go both ways.
But I hate to say it, but I'm learning that people aren't sophisticated like that. It's sophisticated people who understand and get the point of those memes.
Yes. And the other thing is we watched the entire thing and then studied it and looked at, things this morning and polls and all this other stuff. That's not what most people do. I mean, I would say the average, they'll give you an assessment of how many people tuned into the debate, but that doesn't mean they watched the whole thing. They tuned in, they watched it for 5 minutes. They went and got the sound bites. I just don't think a lot of people probably watched the whole thing and tried to analyze it.
And I want to address a conspiracy theory that's going around about the audio. She had the earrings. Have you heard about that?
Did not.
There's a product called Nova H1 audio earrings, and they're saying that those pearl earrings are the ones. So first, for those, I'm going to give both sides. And this is not just me. And I'm an audio person, but I actually talked to some audio people that actually educated me on some things. Like one, we all agreed that the earrings were not some kind of audio device. But we all also agreed that both of them were using audio devices. This was all of our professional opinion. And what I learned is that a lot of the people running for president and stuff like that, they don't need an earring. They've got this thing that's almost like gauze tape that they put on the back of your ear, and it vibrates off of some kind of bone or something. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm telling you, somebody way more professional, way more knowledgeable told me. There's some kind of bone in your ear, and it literally, it vibrates it. It goes past the ear and goes directly to that bone that makes sound in your head.
Okay.
And they're used all the time. And the consensus is both of them were using those or some form of.
Well, so I can tell you, if Trump was communicating with his team and I was his team, I would have been like, focus. Here's your 5 points. Focus.
If you watch it again with the idea that they're both listening to people, you'll see head nods that don't match up to what's going on. Like they'll just kind of, and they didn't mean to nod their head, but you can see that they're hearing something. And like I said, this is not just me. This is is me and 4 other people. We all came to the same consensus, and we all do sound, and we're used to how people react and everything. And we were all 100% that we think that both of them had audio devices.
Well, I don't know how I feel about a conspiracy theory, but what I will say is,
and I think that has happened at most presidential debates.
I'm about to say, at the level that they're at, with the technology, particularly that the U.S. government has, which both of them would have access to.
Yes, that was mentioned.
I mean, of course. I mean, that's not like, this is not James Bond here. This is higher than James Bond. So could they have devices like that? Could they be communicating from other rooms? Yeah.
Mike, you said the James Bond thing. She could literally go to a warehouse. You know how in every movie they got the warehouse and the guy's got the flamethrower tucked in the suit. And
I
all
love that warehouse.
Yeah. She could literally probably go to some warehouse like that and be like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
Him
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I don't like these pearl listening devices. Give me gold ones.
Or she could go to her head of security and be like, can I have one of those?
Yeah.
That you got in your ear? Because they don't all have that plastic thing.
Not anymore. Well, hey, I wouldn't rule that out. I mean, if you ask me, I'm not even sure that's cheating. In this, it's sort of like I'll use a comparison of professional cycling, which by the way still goes on. But we could even go with the Lance. Let's go with the Lance Armstrong years for the sake of argument. They're all doing it.
Yeah,
they're all doing it. You know, maybe one or two maybe get caught, but that doesn't mean diddly do. They're all doing it. Let's be clear on this.
Mike, give a percentage.
I think during a lot of those years, I would be shocked if it was under 95%.
I don't think that a natural athlete could compete they could win some of those smaller ones or compete in those smaller ones, but why can't I think of the name of it? The one that...
Oh, like the Tour de France.
Yeah. I don't think that you could qualify to be in it without being on drugs.
Yeah, it's probably...
So I'm at 110%.
I mean, I'm not going to argue that, but, you know, I equate it to the same thing here. So for me, like, you know, if your teams are whispering in your ear, so what? If they're both doing it, who gives a crap? I mean, it's not going to change the outcome. I mean, that's just the reality.
I agree. I agree. Bro, I think we've talked about almost everything about this. I would like
probably
to end,
got some more,
but I would like to end on a more sobering topic.
Okay.
It was briefly mentioned by us. Today is September 11th, 9/11. And my daughter had just recently been born. I was at home. I remember I was sitting on the couch. She was in my arms. And I watched literally the whole day. That first day, you know how the coverage was? I watched that whole day with my daughter in my arms. And it was a surreal feeling that I had so much promise for the future. I'm married. I got this beautiful daughter. And I'm like, wow, you know, maybe we're going to go to war. Maybe the world that I'm thinking I'm bringing her into is not going to be the world that I thought it was. It was a real sobering moment for me. I was very cognizant that we have fought all our wars outside of America. We have not had to deal with planes flying over, dropping bombs, none of that type stuff. And I thought about all of that. So I want to say from the bottom of my heart that I love and I respect, and I will always memorialize those who lost their death, whether they were just an office worker, whether they were the police, whether they were the firefighters. I am with you, and I will definitely never forget, even though I wasn't there, I didn't lose anyone. It was at a very monumental time in my life, and it's connected to that, so I'll never forget it. There are things that I did moving forward in my life, the way I prep, the way everything that I do, what I do with finances, all came from that day.
Yeah, it's one of those things that is etched in your mind forever. Being like you, I watched it. In fact, you know, I think we watched it for forget about one day. It was probably weeks. We were glued to that TV after that happened, and it was a day to always and never forget. I mean, that's the bottom line. I sadly know a couple people that died in New York City, and you know, being from that part of the world, I was not very far from New York City at the time. So it was it's something that we best never forget, because, you know, we don't want that to be repeated.
Yeah, me and my wife shortly after the event actually moved to New York. something I always talk about is they did background checks just for you to move into an apartment.
Yeah.
I don't mean regular background checks. I mean deep background checks. We went down there to where it actually happened. Boy, is that the most surreal thing. It looks like a tremendous movie set. It didn't look like that this could be real.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, which by the way was like that for years, because I went to, having visited New York City quite often, we were looking at first a pile and then a hole, and then, just the recovery went on and on and on for years, and then the reconstruction, and then there were still buildings. In fact, I don't even know, there might even be a couple buildings that are still there that were damaged, that were abandoned, because this is not that many years ago. They were still there like this. So yeah, it's a terrible thing. I mean, but let's just remember that all of the first responders, all of the look at from bringing this back to an Overland podcast, all of the things that we take for granted today in travel, most of them came from that day. Like before that, flying on an airplane, you weren't going through security and the X-ray machine. I mean, this is everything about the way we do things now came from that day.
Bro, I used to clean my nails with my knife sitting in my seat in the airplane.
Yeah. Yep. Carrying out a big jug of Coke or something. Like, I mean, we don't even realize how much changed after that. It's amazing.
Anything else you want to say, Mike?
No, I think that was a lot. That was for those of you that are listening out there on our podcast. These are important things. And the reason that because we've been asked a few times, not too much, why we talk about politics and things on this podcast. And it's largely because these things matter to all of us. And we try to do it in a respectful and a non-biased way. Let's like move forward and talk about ideas. And that's the most important thing here is the dialogue. If we don't speak, if we stay in our little holes, in our little sheltered, like-minded people, we're not going to move forward.
So with that said, guys, go down in the comments. You don't have to agree with us.
No, I'm sure you don't.
Disagreements down in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I may have an epiphany about something. I may learn something. So we're anxious to read your comments, to get your DMs, however you get to us. Anything else you want to say, Mike?
No. Stay tuned. We're going to have some more exciting podcasts for you next week.
All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.